Budgetary allocation to Nigeria's agriculture sector. You're welcome aboard. I am Vivian Oguche. It's so good to have you join us on the show today. So let's get this ball rolling with the day's top stories. Alfreda Ambebasi is standing by.
Good morning and welcome. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has announced the commencement of a student loan disbursement program by January 2024 aimed at easing the financial burdens of Nigerians pursuing higher education. This initiative is aimed at alleviating the financial burden on students and parents. However, concerns have arisen due to recent tuition fee increases at some institutions and delays in implementing the loan scheme, which was scheduled to start this month. The student loan program, initiated by President Tinubu's administration, offers interest-free education loans for those pursuing higher education. Despite the initiative's launch, details regarding funding, disbursement guidelines, and the establishment of the Education Bank are yet to be finalized. And now, over 2,000 programmers have registered for the FCMB Hackathon, which will take place from the 27th to 29th of October. The event aims to leverage FCMB APIs for open banking innovation. Participants, including developers, engineers, students, and designers, will work together to create proofs of concept and MVPs to address specific challenges. Cash prizes and rewards also await outstanding teams. The hackathon fosters collaboration, networking, and knowledge exchange with the potential to benefit the Nigerian and African tech ecosystems. And the new development, a 3-day expo jointly organized by MXM Exhibitors and the Kenya National Chambers of Commerce and Industry, Kajiado chapter, is set to kick off on 27th October and run through October 29th. The expo focuses on addressing food security challenges worsened by climate change. It aims to facilitate technology transfer, promote intertrade, and strengthen connections between Kenya and 20 countries from Europe and Asia. This event targets entrepreneurs in the agricultural and manufacturing sectors, covering various segments including agro, dairy, poultry, grains, food, and more. The expo's goal is to enhance agricultural productivity and provide new markets for Kenyan farmers, while also encouraging international exhibitors to invest locally. With over 1,500 exhibitors from several countries, experts say the expo will contribute to Kenya's industrial growth, particularly in agriculture and manufacturing. Stock, commodities, and currency market trends comes next after this break. Stay tuned. Thomas White, Nigeria, led the gainers with a 9.92% increase in share price, closing at 3 naira and 99 kobo per share, followed by Academy Press, Ikeja Hotel, and Chams. On the losing side, VFD Group experienced the most significant decline, with a 9.99% reduction in its end-of-day price, settling at 242 naira and 40 kobo per share. This was followed by McNichols, University Press, and Consolidated Hallmark Insurance. United Bank for Africa recorded the highest trading volume with 47,200,000 shares, followed by Access Holdings, FCMB Group, and Guarantee Trust Holding. And at the close of Monday's trading session on the Uganda Securities Exchange, USE, a total of 601,700 shares were traded, equivalent to a market value of 20,224,600 Ugandan shillings. Compared with Friday's USE trading day, Monday's data shows a 400% increase in volume and a 5% improvement in turnover. The current market capitalization of the Uganda Securities Exchange is 16.3 trillion Ugandan shillings. In total, 3 USE-listed equities were active in trading, concluding with 2 gainers and 7 losers. The 2 gainers were Stanbic Bank Uganda with a 0.85% increase and MTN Uganda with a 0.25% increase. On the losing side, Jubilee Holdings experienced a price depreciation of 0.16%, closing at 628.70 Ugandan shillings per share. This was followed by East African Breweries, Equity Bank, and KCB Group. Stanbic Bank Uganda recorded the highest trading volume with 600,000 shares, followed by MTN Uganda and Bank of Baroda Uganda. And we turn to the commodities market, where wheat is being traded at 592.25 US cents. Gold is valued at 1,966.79 US dollars. Silver is priced at 23.14 US dollars. Copper is being exchanged at 3.54 US dollars, and Brent crude oil is trading at 90.95 US dollars. And that's it on the business news this morning. I am Alfreda Ambe-Ibasi. Business Insights continues with Vivian Oguche. Stay with us.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's dig down into the day's topic. Now, between January and March 2021, the agriculture sector in Nigeria contributed to 22.35% of the total gross domestic product, right? Despite this contribution to the economy, Nigeria's agricultural sector faces many challenges which impact on its productivity. Now, these include poor land tenure system, low level of irrigation farming, climate change, and land degradation. Others are low technology, high production cost, and poor distribution of inputs. Now, limited financing, high post-harvest losses, and poor access to markets. Now, what we are going to be focusing on today is limited financing. And for more perspective on this, I'm being joined by Bridget Okonofua. Thank you, Bridget, for coming over.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. You look good, by the way.
Thank you. You too. I love your hair.
Oh, thank you. All right. So Bridget is the CEO, Lead Unique Ventures Limited. She is also an agribusiness consultant, which is why she's here today. So we'll take a look at the 2024 budgetary allocation to the agricultural sector. So Bridget, let's start from the beginning, right? What is the international best practice when it comes to budgetary allocation to the agri sector globally?
Well, international best practice is, okay, let me just look at what I put down. It's okay to just, go through what I noted.
Absolutely.
While I was contacted for this.
Yeah.
See? Sorry.
But so while we consider that though, are you impressed with the way things are in the agricultural sector in Nigeria as we speak?
No.
Oh.
And yes.
No and yes. So I'm going to need you to expatiate.
Okay. There's room for improvement, really. You know, Nigeria is come of age when it comes to agriculture. The decision to diversify into agriculture was a very good one. But how to implement is the issue, okay? Government has done a lot. They've been trying to put certain things in place, but it is not as, we should expect it to be.
So let's talk about the budgetary allocation to the agricultural sector. What we've been doing on the show this week is to take a look at sectorial budgetary allocations, and today we're talking about agri. Are you impressed with what the federal government is doing so far?
I'm actually very glad, that the government is prioritizing the budgetary allocation for agriculture, because, it plays a very significant and important role in agricultural development in Nigeria. Okay, so I'm particularly glad. So I want to say, or I should say, congratulations to Nigeria, because over time it wasn't, it wasn't like that in the time past. But we're looking at putting agriculture at the forefront in our budget, which will help the development, innovation, and or what have you in agriculture.
You listened to my introduction, right? I reeled out a number of factors that is mitigating against the agricultural sector. One of them is preservation of goods after harvest.
There are so much issues in the agricultural sector. Since we took it from this end, let me just go straight to this point. Like I said yes and no. No, in the sense that we have not been able to meet up with those things that will help us to sustain agriculture in Nigeria. All right? We have not been able to sustain agriculture. For example, logistics. It's very key. Today you hear farmers saying that they can't get their goods off the roads are bad, the inadequate infrastructure, final access to loans, and so on and so forth. It's so enormous. Now, these are the areas that we really need to care for. For instance, you talked about post-harvest losses. It's a major thing that's eating deep into the agricultural sector. The reason there's high inflation of food is because there is no storage facility. I mean, they say we have some. I would say build more, revive the ones that are there, so that we'll be able to preserve our foods. I mean, I always say to people that some certain group of people have decided or have turned themselves into going to the markets at the late hours.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Why is that?
Yeah, why?
The reason is because the farmer takes his produce from the farm to the market, right? And at the end of the day, probably not able to sell everything. What do you think will happen to the produce if not sold?
I think I know where you're driving at now.
People will buy it, they will price it down. People will buy it at a cheap rate. Buy 10, get 1. Buy 5, get 20. Like it's just give away. Has the farmer made his money? No. How does the farmer preserve the food that are not sold, or produce that are not sold in the market. If government will think about, or let's say government, because this is not just about the government, yeah? Government has, like I said, I'm happy that, at the fact that the government has made a budget for agriculture. Very wise. But we also need the people. We need the private sectors. For instance, you go to K2 market, you go to Mile 12, you go to all these markets, right? There are no storage facilities sited at these locations. So the farmer takes his goods from wherever to that farm and not able to sell it. And is at the mercy of those who go to the farm market in the evenings. Because he can't take his produce back to the farm. Neither can he take the produce back to his house.
Wow.
And you see, most of our agricultural produce are perishable products.
Like tomatoes, vegetables.
Yeah, so this is why I say, yes, we're doing a lot, but there's room for improvement on the government side and the private sector.
You talk about preservation. How about not just a preservation, but converting these goods into finished products, where you are able to convert your tomato to tomato paste, going a step further?
Now that brings me to the issue of access to finance.
You said it earlier.
Loans.
Yes.
Again, mechanization, equipment. How do you process tomatoes to paste? What do you need? You need equipment.
So it's capital intensive, right?
Well, yeah. The value chain in agriculture is very, very important. So if we cannot have access to loan, I was talking to someone yesterday, and he said, Bridget, I need money. I'm doing hibiscus flower.
That's the one they use for this Zobo drink. Yeah.
This guy is aggregating farmers in the northern areas. Has huge aggregates of farmers. But it's not doing so much because there is no finance. We have these groups of farmers here, we have that group of farmers here. They come to me, they talk to me about how can they access loans. I'm looking for a way how they can access loans. I say, the farmer and the bank, they are not friendly at all.
Yeah, but what seems to be the problem?
They are not good friends.
Why?
Yeah, the reason is because I think that we all need to be sensitive, either the financial sector and the government. We need to be sensitive to know that agriculture does not just end at the farm. We need to move from the farm, primary production, to the value chain. And in the value chain, you need equipment, you need money. And the policies, the bureaucracies, all these things need to be soft-pedaled on, because this is what is affecting the agricultural sector.
So when you talk about bureaucracy, are you talking about bottlenecks?
Bottlenecks that the farmers have to go through. Last week I was talking to a friend of mine who is on the farm every day, aggregating farmers, doing all kinds of short gestation time produce, long-term produce, rice and all that. And he was saying to me that, Bridget, we have issues. We have issues with, first of all, moving our stock, our produce out to the market. We need outlets. Then the banks are not helping. There are no outlets where you can bring your produce out. We talk about storage. Again, let me go to storage, for instance, yeah? When you talk about storage facilities, I was privileged to travel to somewhere in Los Gales, in America, and I was taken to see how storage facilities are built. You know the stretch between Lagos and Ogun State? You will see storage facility like that, and it serves, Los Gales serves as a distribution point between Mexico and America. So this is what happens. All the produce that comes out from Los Gales, from Mexico, stops in Los Gales, right? And in Los Gales, they distribute to America. Now again, logistics, okay, which is one of the things that is eating deep. Yes, they have allocated budget. Oh, praise the Lord, we're happy. Congratulations to us. How are the funds going?
Yeah.
Inadequate infrastructure. We don't have these things. When are we even going to get out of it? I don't know. Are the budgets going round? Yes, government have tried to put some initiatives here and there, Anchor Borrower, presidential fertilizer, all those things, yeah? Are they going out? Are they being appropriately, distributed?
You know, you mentioned some of those facilities which you find abroad. One of the things that is applicable in some other climes is ranching. Farming is wide, right?
Yeah.
Ranching,
Cattle ranching.
Cattle ranching is part of it. Once upon a time, Nigeria's federal government, the predecessor of this current government, proposed something called Ruga. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was turned.
It didn't fly. Yeah.
Yeah, but there was no substitute for that. What would you advocate to? So we don't just look into just farming and all of that, but branch out into other aspects of agriculture.
Agriculture is wide. You know, when we talk about agriculture, it's a very wide space. You understand? We have the agriculture itself. When you look at agriculture, it's generally, right? We talked about primary producing. We talked about distribution. We talked about processing. We talked about packaging. We talked about, yes, packaging, then distribution. Then we talked about market, off-takers.
So these are value chains.
Yeah, it's the value chain. Okay. Now, what are we doing to make things, to soften things for that sector so that all these things can flow as the value chain, as the name implies? You don't want to get from one point to the other point and then you're stuck there, you don't know what to do. Everything has to do with finance. And the biggest problem right now in the agricultural sector is that farmers are not accessing loan. That's really a big thing. Because you need to government is not giving inputs to farmers. You know, how many farmers have government given inputs to? Yes, they say they try, they do. But we have rooms for improvement. We need to do more. Nigerian government, I thank the Nigerian government and I'm happy as a Nigerian to know that they are thinking about agriculture. But the problem is we're really not doing much the way we should do it. Because every day there is complaint. Today I talk to farmers, they will say one thing, tomorrow another thing, and all that. Yeah. There is high inflation because we are not producing. Even if we are producing, how much are we producing? We're not even able to, you're talking about international best practice. How can we even meet the international best practice? Right, you understand what I mean? Because some of these government policies that has crippled the agricultural sector is preventing the quality, quantity, and all that. How can people, the regulations, do you understand? I mean, my brother was leaving on Friday to Austria, and he had some food just for the family, bitter leaf and all that. And he was stopped at the airport for a very long time. Would almost miss his flight because he was going through what they call the checks. I don't know if you're getting what I'm saying. So government really needs to be sensitive. Government really needs to be futuristic thinking. Government needs to think sustainability, security, commitment. It is not only, you see, it's quite okay to come up one morning and say, this is where we want to go, right? But we need to be committed to what we say.
So commitment on whose part now?
On the part of government. Government needs to, this is a government, I mean, even though we say private sector, it's a government thing because the regulations and the policies comes from the government. Now, how can farmers, if there is no organization that rents, for instance, equipment, or if there's no government sector that rents tractors, which is another big thing, okay? Who is giving farmers the appropriate equipment that they need to enhance their production? Farmers have to go and buy them.
What you've done is just to open up a can of worms, right? And we're going to be taking a look at it one after the other. Yeah, really. Not too long ago, it was last week actually, it was International Day for Rural Female Farmers. Now, I was privy to one of the reports, and some of the things the women, I'm going to be reeling out the adverse conditions they have to battle every day as women, female farmers in rural areas, and I'm going to need you to tackle them. You mentioned security. One of the things these rural female farmers talked about was herders destroying their farm produce. Do you think government is doing enough to quell that?
Okay. Now, when you say government doing things, today we didn't just start with herders destroying farms. That was the issue why they came up with Ruga. Because they wanted to curtail the situation. They wanted to stop it.
Stop them from moving from farm
to farm.
Yes.
Training. Yeah? So they are not, government is, okay, you said they came up with that and it stopped. Is there an alternative?
None.
Okay, we see how ranches are done outside of Nigeria.
But why did it stop? Because the state governments were not buying it.
No, because the laws surrounding Ruga was too rigid. No state would have accepted that. No state would have accepted that. You know, so we're still back to where we are, or where we were. We're still back there. That's why the women are complaining, because you wanted to get the herders off the street. Give them, to confine them to a place. But right now, there's nothing like that. So that means the herders and the cows are let loose. They're still on the streets.
But the thing about herders is that nomads, what they do is to walk from place to place. So there used to be routes where you have these people, you know, go from north to east to south. But those routes have been taken over by buildings, by all sorts of things. But let's not dwell there, right? One of the other things these women complained about was land ownership. Let's talk about some of the social issues against women. For example, a number of women that flew from conflict in Mangu. Mangu is in Plateau State. They had to move to another local government, and they had to rent a farm just to survive. In fact, it's the man who gave them a farm to farm would have them work and pay them stipends, right? What would you say about allocating farmlands to women?
Well, it's still the same issue. Government is not looking at the agricultural space.
Is it a government thing?
Yes, it's government, it's community, it's local government. When you say government, it's not...
It's not just...
It's not like Aso Villa. We're talking about, you know, the people in charge.
How do they say it? Government is by the people
and for the people. And you understand, so this going, like when we talk about government, we're not saying, you know, the people sitting at the presidential villa.
We are all government.
We're just, you and I, we are government. Yes, you understand, because there's the president, there's, you know, the governors, and then there's the local governments. When you talk about these women, are they not talking from a local government?
Rural areas, absolutely.
Who owns the lands? Who gives the lands? Why would a local government allow the female farmer in his community, his locality, to be sent away to another place where they would not go and enslave themselves to earn stipends?
You call that slavery?
Well, if they had their own farms and now the lands have been taken away from there and they end up, what would you call that?
So another thing you mentioned was mechanization, right? One of the things these women also talked about was lack of tractors. So they have to farm very large lands, but no equipment to help them. What would you advocate? Earlier on, you said this is not just a government thing. You also said the private sector should cash in.
It's not just a government thing. Tractor is one of the things that you use on the farm. If you want to produce largely, in large scale, you need tractors. I mean, you say a woman is producing, let's say, 10 hectares of land, and she has to employ people to clear the land, to till the ground. Come on. There is even, again, finance. Because if you employ labor, you have to pay. And how many laborers do you think you need for 10 hectares of land? It's not funny. So we need mechanization for us to be able to enhance productivity. If the government is not looking at that part, let even private sector do that. Because even farmers will be happy and glad to know that, okay, they can run to this organization that has the equipment and lease equipment. Because leasing is very important.
Oh, that's an alternative. Right?
Leasing is important. So I'm saying to the people who are there every day saying that, where do I play in agriculture? What do I do in agriculture? Please go into mechanization, into equipment supply or leasing. Farmers come to me every day. I mean, there was a time I was, because sometimes I organize delegations to Germany for agricultural machinery event. And each time I go, I always get a list from farmers, and they will say to me, please look, if you can find this one there, if you can find that. But China has made it even easier for us now. We now have all the small handheld equipment, which are not very expensive. So that can be a business for someone. Today we say, oh, what do we do in agriculture? We are lost. Yes, a lot of people are still lost in agriculture. In as much as we talk about agriculture. First of all, the insecurity. Again, it's not just about being lost. Again, for people who want to invest, there's insecurity. You just talked about the headers right now. That's for the people who are on the land. Because agriculture is not only about going to the land to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. It doesn't end there at all. You have to be in the value chain. You have to play in the value chain. And again, the insecurity is what is stopping a lot of people. So how do we grow? How do we develop agriculture if insecurity is killing the system?
And then if there's no food, I mean, no nation.
And then there is no, the group I belong is no farmer, no nation. There is no food, there's no nation. Again, let us look at how we can sustain our agriculture. Because if we don't sustain agriculture, we will lose out in the world. Again, I was on a trip via Paris to Vienna, and I met a very old painter. Interesting, right? And then he was talking to me about the Ukraine and Russian war. I said, I'm from Nigeria. He said, wow, Africa, power. That's what he said to me. Oh, wow. And I said, what do you mean? I said, what do you mean? He said to me, because Africa will be the food hub of the world.
Well, that's some good prophecy.
I was, I was a bit, I was.
You held your head high.
I blushed.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Just knowing that I'm an African, that the world will come to Africa for food.
Yeah.
Now, how can the world come to Africa for food if we are not futuristic?
Yeah.
How? If we are not sustainable? How?
Yeah. You talked about Zobo earlier on.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, somebody brought me a gift outside the country. Guess what?
Zobo.
Packaged. It's, foreign tea.
Yeah.
Why can't we do stuff like that in Nigeria and then export?
Well, people are doing it. Right. I mean, if you go out there, you see this Zobo tea, you see this Zobo drink. People, I attended one food program, I think somewhere at Landmark, and I saw these beautiful packaged products. Like they could pass for international products. And as I was going back, looking at all the stands, I'm like, did you really produce this in Nigeria? Yes, we did. Okay, did you produce this in Nigeria? Yes, we did. Now, one thing I really would love is that the Nigerian government should make proper policies that will help people to be able to sell their products out of Nigeria. Now, do you know that almost everything is banned? Almost everything we produce in Nigeria is banned. Look at it. You understand what I'm saying? It's a sorry case sometimes when you look at this, that Nigeria, as big as a nation, we produce so much, we have so much land, we have so many farmers, we are producing, but we don't really meet the standard.
Yeah, but I'm not sure everything is banned.
No, I said almost. Yeah. I didn't say everything.
Yeah.
I said we almost everything.
People watch this show. So
yeah, I'm not saying everything is banned. That's why I said almost
right? Yeah,
everything. If you look at the list of items that are banned, you will feel sorry. You understand what I'm saying?
Which reminds me of what one of the guests I had said on this very show. He said Nigeria, as the giant of Africa, is poised to do cross-border transactions if Nigeria is able to produce what other neighboring countries want. Do you understand? So when you are strategic about exporting, producing goods that people need, then, you have a good market.
Yes, you have a good market. You have a good market, even currently. You just said somebody imported Zobo to Nigeria. Yeah. It's the same way that the Chinese will take Gari and go and produce it and bring it back to Nigeria.
Isn't that a sorry case?
Yeah. It's the same way some other African country will produce yam and say it's from Nigeria. They export Nigerian yam and say it's produced in that country.
But let's talk about the attitude of Nigerians ourselves. The love for foreign goods. Would Nigerians patronize made in Nigeria goods?
We are patronizing made in Nigerian goods. I can tell you for sure, yes, I can eat rice somewhere in your house if it's foreign rice, because I can't complain if you give me a plate of rice in your house. But you see, the thing is, I won't eat foreign rice in my house.
Why?
Because it's produced in Nigeria. Although more expensive, but you know, I love to eat that fact, not just the rice, but the fact that this rice is produced in Nigeria.
That's like your father rice.
Not the father rice. Okay. Nigerian parboiled, polished rice. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
I love to eat those things. Somebody was asking me last week, so why do you always love to eat this iru? You know this iru dawa dawa? I said because it's Nigerian.
Yeah,
I love it. It gives
tasty,
me it's tasty. It gives me the flavor.
Absolutely.
You understand? We're producing a lot. We should actually patronize ourselves.
Absolutely.
You understand? Because the market is wide, yes. Nigerian agriculture has topped the GDP of Nigeria. So we should be glad. I mean, if the world could see Africa as a food hub, it's coming.
It's coming, right?
Yes. Somebody sent me a link this morning from Chad about Russian President Putin talking about, he said, I don't need to go to war with France. I just need to liberate Africa. And that's what we need.
Oh, that's what Putin said?
So you can see that we have been in bondage, so we need to be liberated.
But do we really need liberation? I mean, I don't feel like I'm enslaved.
No, it's not you. We're not talking about you. We're talking about the countries itself.
Okay, well, that's another kettle of fish entirely.
You understand?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Anyway.
Go ahead.
Yes, so as we wrap up now, right, one of the things you talked about, or you kept saying, was that farmers come to you. I was wondering, have they ever mentioned the lack of fertilizers or pesticides or herbicides?
Yeah, I said just now that government has put up certain initiatives, various initiatives to help farmers, right? Okay, that's fine. They have the anchor border system, they have the presidential fertilizer, they have the, you know. Now the question is, where does the fertilizer go? How many farmers duly or truly receives this fertilizer? How many farmers?
So this is where transparency and accountability comes in.
Yes. You understand? Now we talk about that. Farmers are still even though there is presidential fertilizer scheme, why are farmers still complaining about fertilizers? You get what I mean? So we talked about that. Look at the anchor borrowing system that looked like a deliverance for Nigeria. Did it work? Is it working right now?
Well, some people actually benefited, right?
Well, yes, some people benefited. You said some people, but a lot of people actually, or let's say some people too, took that money and used it for their own self, whatever.
Yeah, and you can't say a scheme
is national money.
Absolutely. You can't say a scheme is successful based on some people
Yes.
benefiting from it. Yeah, absolutely.
Some people it's nothing.
It's not
So the population of Nigeria?
Over 200 million.
Some people? We're not doing well. So we need to be able to do that. Produce enough to feed ourselves. Produce enough to export. Because we know that, again, the world is going to ask us for, food. So have we positioned ourselves for that? I was in France, late last year, and I went to a couple of shops, some of those grocery shops. I saw produce from different African countries. Guess who was not there?
Nigeria.
Nigeria was not there. You see, they put it on the carton. Kenya,
Ghana,
Sudan, Ghana, and all that. But my dear, beautiful, lovely, wonderful, big country, it's not there. So,
what you just did was to make me flash back to what happened in 2019 when the borders were closed, because then President Muhammadu Buhari said he wanted Nigerian farmers, people who farm rice, to have a market in Nigeria and not have all those other farmers and bring their stuff into Nigeria. So these borders were closed. But one of the things an investigative journalist discovered was that people with monies would go and buy and then start selling them at very exorbitant. So let's talk about corruption, not just in government. And the mentality of Nigerians, as a nation. Let's talk about that.
Well, the corruption is what we've been talking about. I just mentioned about some people grabbing the anchor borrower's money and not spending it rightly, right? We talked about the access to finance. Who told you people don't access money? But they are not just the common farmers.
There are those that don't really need it.
They are portfolio farmers.
Portfolio, what's that? Portfolio farmer?
They are the big guys farmers. They access the fund. Wow. How come they access the fund and the farmers cannot access the fund? Somebody was telling me that to grow an hectare of rice, you need 500,000 naira. Right? Now, you go to the bank and the bank is telling a farmer to bring 250,000 naira. Now, where is the farmer going to, answer the question. Where is the farmer going to get the 250,000? And the farmer has to cultivate 2 hectares.
What would you suggest be done in a situation like this?
Well,
for both sides not to lose.
Yeah, well, I think, again, there's this, I understand from the bank point of view, because if you're not bringing a collateral, you should at least make a contribution with what is called equity contribution, right? Now, but the thing is that the farmers, it's only in this Nigeria that I see that farmers are tempted poor.
Farming is big business, right?
No, the money is in the farm.
Okay.
Agriculture is the next petrodollars. And the people who play in this space, some of them still consider themselves as poor. Because every time you hear the word, we are poor farmers, farmers should not use that word because they have already confined their minds to being poor. So look, let me tell you, all over the world, farmers have voice. You know, I don't know how to explain.
I know, right? And then there's something you said about the person you met when you were traveling who prophesied that, you know, Africa will be the next big thing when it comes to agriculture. Do you know that not too long ago, Nigeria used to be, very big when it comes to agriculture? Agric was the mainstay of Nigeria's economy. It was our baby. It was. And then oil came.
And we left the baby in the water to flow the baby away. Oh, no. And then suddenly, boom, we realized that we're supposed to get back. That's where the problem is. Because for years, we've dwelled in oil and gas. We were almost drinking petrol. Now we come back to agriculture. Everybody's confined their minds to insurance, banking. You remember those days? You go to school, you come out, you want to go to the insurance, you want to go to bank, you want to go to all those, prestigious, agriculture was even seen as my mother's business, my parents' business, old people's business. You're not supposed to go into it. It's so dirty. I can't roll up my sleeves and all that. Yeah. But today, where is the bank? You go to the banking hall today, nobody's even sitting there. You just need 1 or 2 persons there.
AI is taking over artificial.
So now we have a big problem because the people who have come out from agriculture, from the oil sector and all that, now wants to get into agriculture and they are confused. They don't even know what to do. A lot of people don't know what to do. You hear people say, Bridget, what can I do? I want to do agriculture. In church the other day, somebody still came to me and said, what should I do? I want to do agriculture. You understand? A lot of people want to get to agriculture now because that is the next petrodollar. It's where the money is.
Next petrodollar. You know, what we've just done is to explain why it is important to fund agriculture.
It is very important. Right? That's why I said the budgetary allocation for me is a sign that we're doing some things in the right direction. But we also need to improve. We have to put these funds in the appropriate places. Make sure there's less import and more export. Make sure you clear all that table because all these bureaucracies and all these things surrounding export is what is killing us. Sometimes, I'm sorry to say that, sometimes I consider it as a mother who just had a child and decide to kill the child.
That sounds gruesome.
Yeah, it is. Oh, well, yeah. It sounds gruesome, but that's the point. Because you say we should diversify into agriculture. You say we should do agriculture. You are even allocating budget, but the bureaucracies and the policies are killing the farmers.
So where do we go from
Where
there?
do we go? How do we?
You know, as we wrap up the show now, you've done so good, Bridget.
Thank you.
Yes, as we wrap up, in your position as an agribusiness consultant, seeing as so many of these farmers come to you, what will be your final thoughts as regards funding agriculture and diversifying Nigeria's economy so that the agricultural sector can begin to thrive again?
Now I say to farmers, Yeah, in as much as farmers, we consider ourselves as poor in Nigeria, because that's what I hear all the time.
So you said the mentality.
The mentality, we need to reorientate.
Absolutely.
Because we are not poor. In fact, government shouldn't make policies without a farmer sitting on the table.
So round pegs in round holes.
No policy should be made with regards to food and farming, agriculture or agribusiness without the farmers on the table. Okay? Because the farmers are the ones who are on the farm. They are the ones who till the ground. The ground listens to the farmers. You understand? If the farmers can say anything to their plants that they wish, and the plants will respond to them. I'm telling you, it's a bit more spiritual.
Wow. Really?
Yes. So for you to talk agriculture, agribusiness, or food production, you must have the farmers on the table. The reason we're still facing what we are facing, sometimes these policies are made without the farmers on the table. And farmers have to begin to see themselves as a god, because with no farmer, no food. No farmer, no nation. Farmers need to be educated. We talked about standards, yeah? How can we meet standards when we have inadequate infrastructure? No innovation. Because the farmers that we're looking, they are not even regulated. The standards are not regulated. How can you meet them? The standards are not enforced. How can you meet them? How can how can we have standards? Because even the farmer on the farm is using fertilizer the wrong way. No farm extensions. You understand? They are producing. Don't forget, the farmers also eat what they produce. So there has to be education. There has to be access to loan. There has to be storage facility. There has to be logistics. There has to be a lot, yeah?
I know, right? If we let you could go on and on. Thank you so much,
thank you.
Bridget. It was actually fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much.
I do hope that when we call on you again, you'll be a part of the show.
We'll keep talking.
We'll keep talking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have been speaking with Bridget Okonofua. She is the CEO, Lead Unique Ventures Limited. Bridget is also an agribusiness consultant, and she really has done justice to the topic today. If you had fun, why don't you keep a date with me again, same time, same station, as we continue to discuss issues on Business Insight. Until then, take care of you. I'm Vivian Uguche. Bye.